Um, Unfortunately, it is probably true, since we have nations, that the people of each nation should choose, insist upon, or eliminate the leadership they are led by. Now, I'm not a nationalist. I'm unled, and I have no conventional religion, or whatever Iran, for instance, calls religion. So it is hard to empathize, and I don't. But if I could empathize, would I be happy that an outside nation stepped in and murdered the leader of my theocracy had agreed to? Would I tell myself that on balance, the Iranians would have killed the Ayatollah but didn't or couldn't because the system he had put in place was so threatening? Do we have any Ayatollahs we don't kill? I'm pretty sure the theocracy in Iran is awful, that there were recent demonstrations that saw the authorities kill thousands of citizens. Still, in the end, I think we are not well placed to commit foreign assassinations. I thought regime change was against international law for really, really good reasons. But apart from anything else, there's a level of respect, I think, certainly for me, that when a country, whether it's Cuba, overthrows a Batista, or the communists overthrow a czar, or the Ayatollahs overthrow a shah, I have to respect that. I don't live in those countries, so I can't be sure. I can't say, oh, what were you complaining about? As people are doing now often, remembering the Shah, or like people in Russia remembered the czars. And people even now in Russia will remember the Stalin fondly, crazily. But that's their right, I think. That's their right. If you consider that other cultures and nations and societies choose their leadership or their representation validly. In other words, on some level, all nations are democratic. One way or another, they will eliminate the leadership. And what happens when you start meddling is America, or certainly Europeans, start to support the leadership of other countries because they are amenable to the foreign policy of the United States so we support the regimes in all over the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia. We support those regimes, and we turn a blind eye to their civil rights abuses and their oppression of their people. But we decide, because the Shia state of Iran does not act in our interest specifically. We've decided that those people do not own their own leadership. In a sense, yes, in a sense. There are hundreds of reasons for this line in the sand. The outside regime changers are never doing it for the reasons they give. It won't last unless the people unite and do it, the people of the country, and also connected. What follows is likely to succeed for longer if they do it, if they're the ones who do it, the local people. It also seems that peoples who are used to being led or surrender their independence and interdependence to the whims of a ruling class seem to replace one form of tyrant with the next one. Iran and the Soviet Union are pretty obvious examples. Tsarism was a monarchy replaced by a tyranny, and now it's been communism. The tyranny of communism has now been replaced by the tyranny of Putin, as such we see it. The same in Iran, and in a sense the same in the US or ancient Rome. A king is overthrown or rebelled against in favor of a republic, which is a rule by an elite. Someone is always being ruled, and someone is always doing the ruling as things stand, as we accept them. Aaron Bastani of Novara Media talked to a very wise man today, Rana Dasgupta, who pointed out that the US has become very much like what the British Empire was, the British Empire that it had a revolution against in its heyday, that capitalism and its technologies have made the local working class unnecessary to the economy, and that is the difference with the British Empire. Our foreign workforce cannot vote, and as their usefulness goes, so does their power, our local workforce. And then Aaron makes the stunning and telling comment that ambitious young people naturally go into finance. That's their freedom and opportunity. Yes, if ambition is just to be wealthy, Aaron. I had ambitions to be an actor once, to achieve a great success in that particular art form. If I were a painter or a school teacher, a boxer, or even a plumber, would my lack of the pursuit of something as useless or as simply selfish as finance be a sign I lacked ambition, Aaron? Did you fail at finance and settle for mere journalism? You tell me. So between a useless but ambitious financier and an obsolete working class, it is no wonder we are where we are, which is next to nowhere. Why real identity is now in the purview of influencers. While we look sneeringly at Iran and its theocracy, and Iranians in the US cheer the killing of a religious leader and the murder of a bunch of his possible replacements and their families, and I guess not connecting our very own democratically elected autocrat, we never once go, how interesting, this bears thinking about. Are we waiting for some outside power to come in and take out our leadership, or are we the world's only take-outers? It seemed we have deemed ourselves to be so. Why is no one regime changing us? And aren't we the least bit intrigued that we, Catholic Spain, is the only significant European country that is dissenting from the bloodlust of the rest of the West? It is not so much that Iran's theocracy isn't vile, I'm sure it is, no theocrat I, but what kind of supremacist God gives us the right of game changer? On the streets of Kiev a couple of years ago, a woman who ran a restaurant shouted at me, "Thank you for Donald Trump," to me. I started to say actually it was Joe, but stopped myself. What in the name of Solon would make me happy to be that weak to need a Mexican invasion of my country to rid me of my ruler? Oh, that's right, the US wasn't invading, just sending aid and guns to Kyiv, vowing to continue till the last Ukrainian. What might have happened in the Middle East had the US and West said, "This Jewish homeland is a great idea, all right, lads, here's the round table, talk it out." Instead of the West stepping in and saying, "This shall be, and we will stalk our allies for 75 years to make it so, to keep the land they were mandated by us." What a pathetic, helpless lot I'd be a part of, like the kid in the school ground going home for daddy. It's a habit. Now that projection has returned, not yet applied accurately to religious belief, but I think it's fair game to say that an insecure and gullible culture that fears everyone and thing it can conceive is super likely to imagine another society being as weak. Conceiving saviors is another habit. Where shall I go? Canada. Do I have an Irish second cousin? And the cowards of Silicon Valley are buying land in New Zealand. Perhaps a passel of illegal immigrants who ran away from Europe thinking God promised them America, fled persecutions and monarchies, and never thought to stay and work to change their ancestral land, were destined to breed this kind of cowardly culture, running still to gun stores and schismatic hatreds here at home because they haven't the courage to live as equals. If you are upset by the rise in anti-Semitism, try this. I'm a white man. When the dust settles, as it is right now settling, there are and will be many people anti-me, deservedly. I thought I was chosen to, moved in without being invited to, and told myself I was justified in moving in too, and killing anyone who complained at my moving in also. History of America. Let's find a word to be anti-Mancasian or anti-Malcasian, that is male and Caucasian. So it will be, if you criticize me, you will be anti-Mancasic or anti-Malcasic. You will be anti my tribe and so anti me. Go ahead, it's justified. My tribe was killed off by the Malcasians long ago.